Today's story is both shocking and deeply complex. It spans nearly a decade of investigation and nearly 3 decades to finally deliver justice. It's about a 21-year-old nun whose tragic murder in 1992 remained unsolved until December 2020, 28 years later. This is the story of Sister Abhaya. Our story begins in the peaceful town of Kottayam, Kerala, back in 1992. Known for its serene atmosphere, Kottayam is home to a vibrant Christian community with its many churches and convents playing a central role in daily life. One such convent was the St. Pius II Convent, a well-respected institution that housed a hostel for young women pursuing their education, many of whom were nuns. Among them was 21-year-old Sister Abhaya, a devout young woman who had dedicated her life to God and to serving others. Sister Abhaya was studying for her pre-degree exams and, like any determined student, decided to wake up early one morning to prepare. She set her alarm, went to bed, and rose at 4 a.m. After greeting a few of her fellow nuns, she settled down to study. A little while later, she took a short break, heading to the kitchen, possibly to grab some water or splash her face to stay alert. But by morning, something was amiss. Sister Abhaya was nowhere to be found. The other nuns, concerned by her absence, began to search for her. In the kitchen, they found a few strange clues: a water bottle with its cap off, water spilled on the floor, and one of Sister Abhaya's slippers lying nearby. The mystery deepened when her other slipper was discovered near the convent's well. When they looked inside the well, their worst fears were confirmed. Sister Abhaya's lifeless body was floating inside. The local fire department retrieved the body, and the police were called to investigate. The convent, once a place of faith and learning, was now shrouded in shock and grief. Just hours earlier, the nuns had shared a meal with Sister Abhaya, talked about the future, and gone to bed completely unaware of the tragedy to come. Police officer V.B. Augustin arrived to begin the standard procedures. Photos were taken, and the body was sent for an autopsy. The doctors found cuts, bruises, and a head injury, ultimately listing the cause of death as drowning. However, despite the evidence of injury, the death was initially ruled as suicide, leaving room for doubts about the circumstances. The local community was skeptical. Why would Sister Abhaya set an early alarm, prepare to study, and then take her own life? The scene at the kitchen, a spilled bottle, an open fridge door, and her slipper left behind, seemed far too chaotic to fit a suicide narrative. Rumors of foul play quickly spread. Many suspected a cover-up, especially given that the incident happened in a convent, a place regarded as sacred. The unsettling nature of the case led activist Joman Puthan Parakal to take action. He formed a committee dedicated to seeking justice for Sister Abhaya. Soon the case was handed over to the crime branch, and a new investigation began. Months later, the crime branch released its findings, concluding that Sister Abhaya's death was indeed a suicide. However, crucial evidence, such as her clothes, had already been destroyed, and the investigation was heavily criticized for its shortcomings. The case stirred up intense public debate. Media outlets and citizens across Kerala speculated about what truly happened. Many believed the truth was being deliberately hidden. Facing mounting pressure, the case was eventually transferred to the Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI, for a fresh inquiry. And so began a renewed quest to uncover the truth about Sister Abhaya's death. The CBI started with a new approach, looking for fresh clues and talking to old witnesses again. Everything seemed to be moving smoothly, but then something very strange and shocking happened. A CBI officer, Varghese P. Thomas, held a press conference in 1994 and revealed something surprising. He said that he had been under pressure to declare the case as a suicide. Because of this, he chose to leave his job almost 9 years before he was supposed to retire. You can imagine the chaos that followed his statement. The case became a big news story again. People couldn't understand why it was getting so confusing. Where was this pressure coming from? Why was the case so difficult to solve? The CBI team continued to investigate for quite some time, even though they didn't have much medical proof. Later, they carried out several dummy tests. They made a doll the same size and weight as Sister Abhaya and threw it into the well in different ways. They carefully observed where the doll got injured and compared those injuries to the ones found on Sister Abhaya. However, even after these tests, no clear answers came up. So in 1996, 3 years after the investigation started, a report was submitted. It stated, "We believe this should be treated as a murder case. We tried everything possible to find out who might be responsible for this tragic event. But despite all our efforts, we couldn't get any solid results." 4 years after the incident, despite the efforts of the local police, the crime branch, and now the CBI, we still didn't know what really happened to Sister Abhaya. The earlier report was rejected, and a new CBI team was assigned. This new team carried out another investigation, and by 1999, 3 years later, they came to the conclusion that Sister Abhaya's death seemed like a murder. The main reason for this conclusion was the medical findings. This time, not just one doctor, but a group of 3 doctors looked at the body. They found several injuries that were not mentioned in the first post-mortem report. These injuries had been missed earlier. Now let's go back to the day of the incident. Many nuns were at the convent and noticed more injuries on Sister Abhaya's body. V.V. Augustine, the officer I talked about earlier, had even called a photographer to the scene. The photographer closely examined Sister Abhaya's body and took pictures that showed extra marks of injuries not mentioned in the earlier report or post-mortem. When her body was taken out, many nuns were nearby and they also saw these injuries. They noted several marks that hadn't been included in the original post-mortem report. After 7 years of investigation, it became clear that Sister Abhaya did not take her own life. It looked more like a murder. But who did it? The answer will surprise you even more. The CBI admitted, "We know it's a murder, but we still don't know who the killer is." Once again, the court refused to accept this report. Another team was formed, and in 2005, a new investigation was done. Again, it was stated that the killers could not be identified. And once more, the court did not accept this report. The activists outside, part of the action committee, were now angry. Many talks and conspiracy theories started popping up. Some media reports suggested that the first investigation was poorly handled. They claimed that Sister Abhaya was buried too quickly, her clothes were burned, and even her diary was destroyed. They felt the postmortem was incomplete and suspected that powerful people were trying to cover this up. Various theories spread quickly across Kerala. How could such a chaotic scene be part of the case? Why did the evidence disappear? Then a new team began investigating again, and in 2007, a shocking revelation came to light. By now, the case had been under investigation for 15 years. There were many witnesses, but some had turned against the case, and others had even died. Many suspects had been questioned, but no solid proof was found against anyone. Then, out of nowhere, a witness stepped forward, offering a key clue to the case. But who was this witness? The witness was none other than a thief, an ordinary, unknown thief from 1992. Could his testimony really be trusted? Surprisingly, not only was his statement taken seriously, but it also changed the entire direction of the case. This man was Adaka Raju, who confessed to being a thief around 1992. He would steal from various places, sell the items, and use the money to provide for his family. On March 27th, Raju went to St. Pius Convent intending to steal. His plan was to climb onto the convent roof, take the copper rods and wires used for lightning protection, and sell them. He arrived late at night, but what he witnessed there haunted him for years. In the darkness, Raju noticed someone sneaking into the convent grounds. What stood out to him was the presence of a priest, Father Thomas Couture. This raised an obvious question. Why was a priest at the girls' hostel at such an unusual hour? Raja claimed he also saw Father Jose Pucher Cail and Sister Safi there. The sight was chilling. As a petty thief, Raju had a straightforward method. Steal items, sell them to a scrap dealer, and move on. But what he saw that night unsettled him. The next day, he read about Sister Abhaya's death in the papers and felt that something sinister had happened. He had been there to steal, and if he revealed what he saw, his own crime would be exposed. Yet Raju took the risk and approached the police. When he shared his account, the police turned the tables and accused him of murder. They crafted a simple story. Raju entered the convent to steal, encountered Sister Abhaya, panicked when she screamed, killed her, and dumped her body in the well before fleeing. Raju was detained for 58 days and reportedly tortured. He claimed he was pressured to confess, offered bribes, promises of money, a job, and education for his children, even a house. When Raju refused, they turned to threats and false charges. Despite this, Raju held on to his truth. His integrity, even as a petty thief, made him a pivotal figure in the case. In court, his testimony earned respect. The CBI eventually focused on two suspects, Father Thomas Couture and Father Jose Putracayil. A neighbor claimed he saw Father Couture's scooter parked outside the convent that night. However, he later recanted, alleging he was pressured to change his story. In 2008, based on Raju's statement, the CBI named Father Couture, Sister Sefi, and Father Putracayil as suspects. The defense tried to discredit Raju by highlighting his criminal record. But Raju didn't deny his past, which only strengthened his credibility. His testimony led to narco tests for the suspects. Conducted by Dr. Malini, the tests were recorded on 3 CDs sent to the Kerala courts. However, it was later revealed the recordings had been heavily edited. CDIT analyzed the tampered footage, finding dozens of edits in each recording. The Kerala High Court ordered the CBI to present the original CDs, but days later, the unedited recordings were leaked on a local TV channel. The narco test revealed horrifying details. On March 27th, 1992, Sister Abhaya woke up at 4 a.m. and went to the kitchen to drink water. She stumbled upon Father Couture, Father Jose, and Sister Sefi in a compromising position. Before she could escape, they attacked her. Sister Sefi struck her with an axe, and the group disposed of her body in the well. After the leak, the CBI intensified questioning, but all 3 were granted bail in 2009. Father Jose was later acquitted, but hearings dragged on for years. Finally, in 2020, the Kerala High Court convicted Father Couture and Sister Sefi, sentencing them to life in prison based on the evidence and Raju's testimony. Both were fined $10,000, bringing closure to a 28-year-long mystery. Ironically, it was a thief's honesty that helped unravel one of Kerala's most infamous cases. Thank you for watching True Crime Syndicates. We will meet in the next video.